So a bit of an update to my dear community. We just arrived today back from Los Angeles where we attended the chuppah of our daughter, eldest child, Mushka, to Mendy. It was a very intimate and a very small little chuppah, which is an interesting lesson and a beautiful insight on its own about large over-the-top weddings. So we're here, we arrived to Sydney, and this requires us now to be in quarantine for the next 2 weeks. And so I'd like to reach out and remain connected with all of you and perhaps post a daily little lesson entitled Caffeine Shots for the Soul. Today it's about the 1%, and I'll tell you what I am referring to. While we were in Los Angeles, I came across a book called Atomic Habits, written by James Clear. And he talks about how to help people make improvements for better things in life. There's a beautiful story he brings from the British cycling team. In 2003, they had been so underwhelming, they had performed so bad that they had only won one single medal in any Olympic in the entire 76 years of the British cycling team. There hadn't been one single Tour de France won by a member of the British cycling team. And then in 2003, something changed. They hired a coach by the name of Dave Brailsford. Dave introduced what he believed was a whole different strategy, where if they could make a 1% change across a whole host of small little things, he believed it would compound to a huge difference and big, massive results. So for instance, he became relentless in introducing a tiny little change across so many different things. He tested massage gels for which would have the best and quickest impact on muscles, which would have the best improvement on aching muscles. He tested pillows, mattresses on who would have the best result on a good night's sleep. He made tiny changes to the comfort of the chairs. He made tiny changes to their suits and to the cycling gear they wore. And lo and behold, 4 years later, all these small, tiny changes allowed the British cycling team to win and dominate the Olympics by winning over 60% of the medals in the Olympics. They won four Tour de France's consecutively. What does this come to tell us? That it's not the big moment or the big change that's required to be able to ultimately really make a difference long term. Sometimes it's the tiny, small little thing that goes a very long way. If it's compounded, it ultimately makes huge results. So at the beginning, to the person who's not making any changes and the person that's making small changes, it almost looks like there's no difference. But then slowly, as things pile up, there's a huge gap between those who are making small, tiny little differences. So for instance, if you introduce, even if you're not a reader, and you start reading 15 pages every single day, that means by the end of the week, you're going to have 105 pages, which means by the end of the entire month, there's going to be 420 pages, which means by the end of the entire year, there's going to be over 5,000 pages, 5,040 pages, I think it is. Which means if an average book is 250 pages, you're going to be able, by reading every day 15 pages, cover 20 books a year. Every little good thing we do ultimately piles up. Every little mitzvah we do. You know, we're in a very, very trying time, uncharted waters. Ultimately, today we can see that it's a tiny little impact that we have that can have a negative and devastating impact on our lives. It's the small little 1% in a positive way that can really make a huge, long, and very big difference in your lives. Join the 1%. That's our little shot of caffeine for the soul. Thank you for joining me today. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.